In this video, we're going to take a look at the new Sony Theater Bar 6 soundbar and the Sony Theater System 6. Both systems offer immersive surround sound with Dolby Atmos and DTS, but they take a very different approach to achieve that goal. We'll go over all the features and technology packed into each system, then help you figure out which one might make the most sense for you in your setup. Now let's begin with the design of the Bar 6, which sits below the Bar 8 and Bar 9 in the Sony soundbar lineup and is also smaller than those models and the System 6. We'll say right off the bat that the Bar 6 is best suited for a smaller room. If you're looking for something more powerful to fill a medium or large room, we recommend checking out the Bar 8 or the Bar 9, which I have a full review linked down below. But if you want some pretty impressive sound in a really small package, the Bar 6 is worth learning more about. At just about 38 inches wide, 2.6 inches tall, and weighing about 7 pounds, its compact design fits easily under most TVs or mounts neatly on your wall, making it a perfect fit for some smaller spaces. It has a matte black finish with rounded corners and a metal mesh grille on the front and on the top that covers the height speakers. There's no full display on the front, just a small LED indicator light that turns on when the soundbar powers up, changes color when adjusting the volume, and then glows blue when you're connected via Bluetooth. However, if that light is distracting, there is an option to turn it off completely. Now, inside the Bar 6, there are 5 total speakers that include the left, center, right, and 2 up-firing height speakers, and it comes with a wireless subwoofer. The included subwoofer uses a 6-inch driver, is front-ported, and weighs about 17 pounds. It measures approximately 8.3 inches wide by 15.2 inches tall and 15.2 inches deep, so it's relatively compact and easy to fit in your room without standing out or taking up too much space. Now, on the back of the Bar 6, you get a port for your power, an optical connection, and 1 HDMI eARC connection. Now, one thing we do wish that more soundbars had was HDMI pass-through. Unfortunately, this Bar 6 doesn't include it. Now that might be a drawback for some gamers or people with multiple devices who rely on pass-through for more convenience. However, this system here is really for people who want quality sound without a complicated or intrusive setup. It really is going to work well for someone in a smaller room or a secondary setup where your devices plug right into the TV and the soundbar handles the audio via eARC. Now, moving over to the Theater System 6, this unit builds on the Bar 6 by adding 2 compact wireless rear speakers and a more powerful subwoofer. The rear speakers are small enough to place discreetly on shelves or mount on the wall behind you. Now, both rear speakers need to connect to an included hub that acts as the amplifier and connection unit that allows them to wirelessly sync with the rest of the system. So while they aren't completely wireless, you only need to run the short cables from each speaker to that small hub, which we'd recommend placing somewhere in the middle behind your listening position. Now, while I do wish that these wireless rear speakers had everything built right into them so you didn't have to run cables to the hub at all and you could just plug them both into the wall, I think it's a trade-off that might be worth it to keep the speakers as small as possible. Now, a difference from the Bar 6 is the location of the connections. What we found interesting here was that the actual inputs for the system are located on the rear of the subwoofer, not the soundbar itself. So to set this up, the HDMI eARC, optical, or 3.5mm aux cable from your TV plugs directly into the back of the subwoofer. The subwoofer then sends the signal to the soundbar through a wired connection and then wirelessly to the wireless hub in the rear for the rear speakers. This is a pretty interesting setup because it will limit where you can place the subwoofer due to the fact that you're constrained by running the wires from your TV and the soundbar itself over to the subwoofer. Most likely, you'll want to place the subwoofer right next to your TV credenza so that the wires reach and you don't have to worry about hiding them all the way across your room. Now, I don't really love the way that this is set up, but if you plan to have the subwoofer right next to your TV anyways, like a lot of people probably will, you most likely won't find this to be an issue at all. Now, inside the System 6 soundbar, there are still 5 speakers, but they're in a different setup than the Bar 6. They've removed the up-firing Atmos speakers and instead have a left, right, center woofers on the front, and then dedicated tweeters on the far left and right to help spread the sound around the listener. This came as a surprise to us because we're pretty big fans of up-firing speakers on soundbars. They typically do a much better job at emulating height effects rather than relying solely on processing to trick your ears into hearing vertical sound. Now, this is where the Bar 6 actually has a pretty noticeable advantage compared to the System 6. Its Atmos effects are just much better thanks to those up-firing speakers. Now, keep in mind that these will only work best when there's nothing obstructing those speakers on the top and your ceiling is around 10 feet or shorter with nothing in the way to block the sound from bouncing back down to you. However, when it comes to the immersiveness of the bed layer of sound, the System 6 just knocks it out of the park. The Bar 6 just simply cannot match the actual speakers playing from behind you that the System 6 has. However, to combat the fact that the Bar 6 is missing rear speakers and the fact that the System 6 is missing height speakers, they both utilize Sony's S-Force Pro front surround to widen that soundstage and the vertical surround engine to simulate a more expansive audio field above you. Again, this is advanced processing that makes the sound seem like it's coming from all around you, and we think it does a pretty good job. But if you've ever sat in a real Dolby Atmos theater with dedicated height speakers and surround speakers, you'll instantly know that it's just not the same quality. But with that said, for the price and the size of both of these systems, they create a very fun and somewhat convincing experience thanks to Sony's advanced tech. Now, one of the most helpful features we found when testing these units is the Voice Zoom 3. When paired with a compatible Sony BRAVIA TV, it uses artificial intelligence to isolate dialogue from background effects. This is perfect for those hard to hear scenes or when characters are speaking softly. The feature can be customized based on your preferences and makes a pretty big difference in usability. Now, if you don't have a Sony TV, you can still access a basic voice mode through the app or the remote. But we also love that you can use the remote that comes with it to access all the menus or access quick menus with a compatible Sony TV and the remote. Now, one thing that neither of these models includes is built-in Wi-Fi. That means no AirPlay, Chromecast, or direct Spotify Connect support. You'll need to stream through your TV or your phone via Bluetooth or a connected device like an Apple TV. It also means firmware updates need to be done manually using a USB stick, which feels a little bit outdated compared to most connected systems. For setup and making changes without the remote, you can also use the Sony BRAVIA Connect app. Setup through the app is just incredibly easy. It walks you through pairing the subwoofer and then entering in just a few key room measurements like the distance from your seating position all the way up to the soundbar and the subwoofer, and then the height between the soundbar and the ceiling itself. And instead of running a full mic-based calibration, it just asks you to pick from a few preset distances. The app also lets you toggle between virtual surround modes like Sony's vertical surround engine, Dolby speaker virtualizer, and DTS Neural X. In our testing, the vertical surround engine performed the best for both units. It gave the sound a noticeable sense of height and depth without the dedicated ceiling speakers. But we always recommend trying them all out in your room to see what works best and what you enjoy the most. Now, from the moment that we powered on the Bar 6, we thought that it sounded much bigger than we had expected. The bar itself isn't really that large, but the soundstage is quite wide and immersive for its small size. The mid bass hit really nicely with a pretty satisfying thump, especially if you bump the bass setting up a couple of notches, and to us we found the +2 or +3 to be a pretty good sweet spot. Directional effects track smoothly across the front stage, and the system holds up well even without dedicated surrounds. The voice mode also helps the dialogue getting lost in the mix, but we generally actually preferred leaving it off unless we were watching something with really muffled vocals. Now still, Sony has always done well with dialogue clarity, and this bar is no exception here. The subwoofer actually does hold its own and definitely makes a huge difference to the overall sound. Sony's unique up mixer can also enhance older content, making low quality audio sound much more immersive. This is great for DVDs or older TV shows that weren't recorded in surround formats. So overall, for the size and the price of the Bar 6, we were pretty impressed with what it was capable of. Now, looking at the Theater System 6, on the other hand, with its more traditional 5.1 channel setup, with a more powerful subwoofer, was much more immersive when it came to the surround sound experience from that bed layer of speakers. We could hear footsteps creeping behind us in horror films and bullets whizzing past us during action scenes that really just brought the movies to life. The rear speakers definitely make a big difference in the realism. While it doesn't have up-firing speakers for true vertical sound, Sony's sound processing tech still delivers a relatively convincing Atmos experience. It just does not sound quite as good as the Bar 6's. In addition, the System 6 features a multi-stereo mode, which is pretty cool, which lets you play full range audio from all of the speakers at once. That'll be perfect for parties or casual listening where you just want to spread the music evenly throughout the room. And just like the Bar 6, it also has integrated keyholes right on the back for easy wall mounting. Now, like I mentioned before, the setup for the System 6 is a bit more involved than the Bar 6. You actually have to find good locations for the rear speakers, run the wires to the hub between them, set your subwoofer close to your TV, and then connect your TV and soundbar to the subwoofer to get it all ready to go. Now, ideally, the rear speakers should be positioned just behind your main seating area at ear level and angled slightly inward. That might mean investing in stands or wall mounts, which adds a little bit more work and possibly a bit more cost. But once you get it right, the payoff is pretty worth it. The sense of immersion, especially in action movies movies or games is significantly deeper than what a soundbar alone can produce. The app still does a pretty good job of walking you through the entire way that you connect it all up, and once you have everything placed, it's relatively easy to go ahead and start listening. So who should buy the Theater Bar 6? It's best for someone who values clean design, easy setup, and compact living. It's a great solution for smaller rooms or people who primarily stream content and want the benefits of Dolby Atmos without the extra gear. The upfiring speakers do a great job at creating spatial effects, and the system's simplicity is one of the strongest selling points. The included subwoofer really does help pack a punch during action movies, and it's going to fit great in an office or a smaller bedroom where you want sound that is better than the speakers built into your TV. On the other hand, the Theater System 6 is made for people who want a more true surround sound system, but still in a relatively compact package. And this one's going to be ideal for people with rooms that have a bit more space and allow for placement of rear speakers behind your listening position. The rear speakers do make a pretty big difference, and the larger subwoofer does deliver more impactful low-end rumble. It's just the better pick if you're aiming for a more realistic bubble of sound while watching movies without really breaking the bank or packing huge speakers into a little tiny space. And if you're wondering how these compare to a more traditional home theater system with, say, a receiver and wired speakers, well, the answer really comes down to your priorities. If you want the ultimate control and the best possible sound quality, yeah, separates are always going to win against these. But for some people, these Sony systems are going to get you somewhat close to that experience at a fraction of the cost and the complexity, and will be great for a secondary setup. Either way, both systems are major upgrades from your TV speakers, and both come packed with Sony's signature sound processing tech. Now, if you are ready to push your audio experience even further, the models like the Theater Bar 8 and 9 that I offered before will offer way more power and flexibility, and they're worth the splurge if you're building out a more serious home media setup. Now, thanks for watching. If you have more questions about these soundbars, you can leave them down below or go to audioadvice.com and our experts would be happy to help. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any of our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.